Are you sick and tired of not being the #1 salesperson on your sales team? You struggle to make the same amount of commissions on a month-over-month basis, and you've been pounding your head against the wall trying to improve, asking your managers, going on YouTube, looking at videos? Well, in this video today, I'm gonna go through exactly how to get ahead of 99% of salespeople, and funny enough, the simple answer is to do what 99% of salespeople aren't willing to do, right? Sounds super simple, but I'm gonna break it down to you in this video. So first and foremost, you have to understand that 99% of salespeople aren't that good at sales, right? Now, the way that I became the top 1% of salespeople, I've closed over $22 million to date, is when I first got to a new job, I found the person who was doing #1 sales at that team, right? Who was the guy at the top of the leaderboard. What I did was I moved my desk, and if you're remote, network with that person, message them on Slack, hop on their calendar, and essentially ask them all of the ways that they're becoming the #1 sales rep. Go back, listen to their calls, understand what's already working so you don't have to recreate the wheel, right? There's a reason why they're the #1 person and you're not, is because they're doing something that you're not doing. Now, the cool thing is once you understand what those things are, what I'm about to break through is how to amplify those results so you can now leave that person in the dust when you become the #1 salesperson. So, #1 thing to understand is the hockey stick method. So the hockey stick looks like this, right? That is essentially, I'm gonna draw a whole hockey stick, but that's the hockey stick kind of graph. So understanding that nothing truly happens until it all happens at once in sales, right? So if you think about your prospects, if you think about your emails, your cold calls, your sales calls, your closing calls, whatever it is, the hockey stick method is gonna be able to work for that. So understanding that it takes time and to have a delayed gratification in sales. Just because something isn't working today, this week, this month, doesn't mean that what you're doing today, this week, and this month can't bear fruit down the line. And the real way that you win in sales is by creating pipeline, creating opportunities, having conversations with individuals, staying on top of those people with follow-up, so then when they're ready, you're also ready. There's so many deals I can guarantee that are sitting in your pipeline or sitting in your CRM that are begging to give you money, and you're just not there, right? You don't have that awareness. They don't remember who you are, your company, what you did. It is your job as a salesperson to keep on top of mind with your prospects. So the hockey stick method can work for you or against you. You understand that there's this, and then there's also the down hockey stick, right? So which one do you want to be? Hopefully you're thinking here, right? This is just baseline KPI, right? So let's just say you're an SDR, you're an appointment setter, and your metric, right, is 100 calls, right? That's baseline. That's what's asked of you. That's the bare minimum on a daily basis. Now, if you understand that most salespeople aren't going to hit their KPI on an everyday basis, let's just say, keep the numbers simple, right? This is 75 calls, right? So if you do 75 calls, you're gonna have a diminishing return versus the people that are staying consistent with 100 calls. Now, since you're watching this video and you obviously wanna be in the top 1% of salespeople, you gotta do a little bit more than what's asked of you over a long enough time horizon to bear that fruit. So from here, let's just say you do 125 calls extra. Now, I'm gonna do some quick math here, right? So let's just say this is a 30-day basis, right? So this is after 30 days. So if you do 25 extra calls than is what is asked of you, 25 times 30 is 750 calls extra, right? That's gonna be a 750 increase in your activity. You're essentially gaining an entire week and a half a day on the people who are doing the average, and you're doing double that, right? So if you do 75 times 30 is 2250, you are doing an extra 1,500 calls than the person who's doing a little bit below the bare minimum. Just understand this, guys. Like literally, that is a half of a month over the person doing 75 if you're doing 125 every single day. Now, I really want that to sink in because that is an insane amount of time that you are going to be increasing on your competition. This guy's gonna take 45 days to do what you did in 30 days. Now, if you extrapolate that over a year period, it is literally impossible for you not to outperform that person, right? And for you to outperform the person who's just doing what's asked of them, which is what 99% of people in life do, is just what's required and what's asked, you need to be the person who's gonna do a little bit above and beyond. Now, 25 extra calls really isn't gonna change your life, right? That's probably maybe an extra hour, 30 minutes per day, every day, to become the top 1%. And like, you could literally stop watching this video right now and just apply this to everything in your life: sales, relationships, money, finances. If you save an extra $25 every month, you're gonna save an extra $750 a month, versus the guy who's only saving $75 a month. You're gonna have $1,500 more than that person, guys. Like, the hockey stick and understanding the hockey stick is gonna change your life. And the big reason why people fail with the hockey stick method is because nothing is happening, right? You're doing things at a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. You're not seeing any results. And usually what people do when they don't see results is they think that they're doing something wrong. They're trying to fix things. They change their scripts. They change their mentality. They change their approach. Now, I promise you, having a delayed gratification in sales is going to absolutely change your life. It's going to change your commission checks, and it's going to change the way that you actually perceive reality. As long as you're able to stay consistent over a 30, 60, 90, 365-day period, you're going to outwork 99% of salespeople. So some other stuff here is time blocking, right? Now, everything is gonna port back to the hockey stick method here, guys. So understanding that the way in which you can do more activity is if you have a greater control on your time. So some things that I love to do is time blocking, right? So block out your calendar, making sure it's not coinciding with meetings, but understanding if you're making cold calls, what is the best time to make cold calls for your offer? Now, on average, it's gonna be early morning or evenings, right? And that's if you're calling high net worth individuals, founders, CEOs, C-level executives, right? Because you understand that during the day, their day is already filled up with meetings, they're traveling places, they're doing things for their business. You have to catch them before their day starts in the morning or after their day ends in the evening times. That's where I've had the best success cold calling. Usually I save the middle of the day for things like follow-up or emails or prospecting or things like that. Now, equally as important to this, right, is just your product knowledge. So product knowledge, right? I was talking with a rep inside of our community yesterday, and he was saying, hey Dylan, like, I'm doing everything, I'm going above and beyond. He's using the hockey stick method to his advantage from an activities perspective. But I asked him a simple question. So his offer, they have a lead magnet, someone puts their information in, they get a free resource. He's then calling that person, making sure they got that free resource, and to follow up to see if it's still of interest and they want to expand the information that they get from that company. I asked him the simple question, have you gone through the free resource yet? And crazily enough, he said no. And I was like, well, how do you expect to have a conversation with somebody who's gone through that free resource if you haven't also gone through that free resource? You're not gonna know what to say, how to say it, what's relevant, what's not relevant to push the needle to book more calls. Literally, I was just in our Slack channel and he posted a win. Same kid, literally 24 hours in advance. That night that I told him it, he went through the free asset. He increased his product knowledge. He understood what the prospect has gone through up until that time, and he literally booked his next call after he went through that free resource because he had more product knowledge. Product knowledge breeds confidence, right? Now, confidence is the most key thing in sales because if you're not confident in what you're talking about, you're not gonna be able to overcome objection, and you're actually not gonna have the confidence to book that call because you don't have confidence in yourself, your abilities, or the product or service that you're selling. Now, the next part is your ability to navigate stress. I'm not gonna sit up here and say that sales is easy, sales is a walk in the park. It's not, because sales makes you a lot of money, and the things that make money are usually stressful, right? Or they take a high stress or risk tolerance to be able to see the results in that thing. Stress can come from a multitude of things. Stress, in my experience and our students' experiences, is being able to be okay with the uncontrollables. Now, what is an uncontrollable, right? That's if someone, no-shows you, right? Or doesn't sign, right? They don't sign your contract, they don't give you money, they don't follow up with you, they ghost a call. Those are all things that are essentially an uncontrollable because the prospect, the other human being in this equation, actually can have control over that situation. Now, as salespeople, you can control what you can control, and you cannot control the uncontrollables. Understanding to just focus on the things that you can control, which is your inputs. If you want to increase your no-show rate, call that person the day of the meeting, text that person, and actually have a better first discovery call with that person to make them more inclined to show. If people aren't closing deals, what can you control? You can go back, you can listen to your sales calls, you can understand what you're doing right or incorrect, things that you can improve upon, coaching, training, mentorship. You can control the things that go into the uncontrollables. Now, when you focus on the uncontrollables and you attach your emotional well-being on things outside of your control, that's where you're gonna have stress, anxiety, and depression, because you're attaching your emotion to something that you don't have control over. Why would you do that, right? Now, the final thing here, and another thing that I see a lot of sales reps struggle with, right, is tracking, right? So the hockey stick method is only gonna work correctly if you're tracking and you're understanding what is happening from the things that is happening, right? So you need to track, if you're an SDR or a cold caller, how many dials are you making? And then from there, how many connects are you having? Now, a connect is if someone that you intended to call picked up the phone. Whether they said, let's do business, or jump off the Golden Gate Bridge, that is still a connect. Now, from there, you have conversations, right? How many times did the people that you intended to connect with that picked up the phone, did you get into a valuable conversation with? That is a convo. Now, you're gonna wanna get percentages on both of these from your dials, right? So if you make 100 dials and you have 10 people connect, you have a 10% connect rate. And then of those 10 people, 5% had that. So you have a 50% conversation rate. Now from there, it's gonna be meetings booked, right? So if you book one of those 5, you have a 20% booking rate. Now, if you understand that one booking can contribute to a 70% show rate, and you need to close 5 deals, I'm writing crazily sideways here, guys, 5 deals equals 10 grand in commissions, right? So you understand that with a 70% show rate, you're gonna need to book 8 calls to have 5 showed calls, right? With a 70% show rate. So you have the 5 showed from there. Now the next thing is understanding what's the close rate of these calls, right? So if we have a 20% close rate on 5 calls, that's only gonna be 1 deal, and you need 5 deals, right? So 8 times 5 is 40. With a 20% close rate, that's gonna be 5 deals. That's gonna get you 10 commissions. So for this to be true, it's a simple equation, right? So if you wanna book 40 calls, right, 1,000 book 10, you're gonna need to make 4,000 dials to get to 40 meetings that show and 20% close rate, which is 5, which is gonna get you that magic number of 10K. Now, if you understand what the hell, 4,000 sounds crazy, Dylan, right? But if you divide that by the 125 extra dials from the beginning of the hockey stick method, that's gonna equal 32 days. So you're probably gonna have to increase that to about 150 calls to do that in a single month. And if you keep these metrics and you're able to track these calls and you're able to utilize the hockey stick method in sales, you are going to outbeat 99% of salespeople. Now, if you like this video, if you have any comments on any other videos or any things you want me to do on the whiteboard, leave those comments below. I do read every single one of them. And if you found this valuable, hit that subscribe button.